Okay, well, a little bit of a letdown in news this week, I would
News
say.
is a snooze. News is a snooze.
Oh, SNEWS. Indeed. So on Tuesday, after a lot of hype, a lot of buildup, a lot of embarrassing text messages, there was a settlement reached in the Fox Dominion lawsuit, literally minutes before we were supposed to hear opening statements from the Dominion lawyers. Alyssa, were you disappointed? What did you make of what happened on Tuesday?
Erin, of course I was disappointed. This was supposed to be our moment. You know, everyone, all these Fox people were going to have to be marched out publicly as hypocrites. Do we know they're already hypocrites? We do. Was most of what we were going to learn already public? It was. But still, where is our gratification?
Yeah, where's our gratification? So the settlement will result in Fox News paying out more than $787 million to Dominion voting systems after they defamed them in the wake of the 2020 election where Donald Trump lost handily to Joe Biden. And Fox News anchors and personalities lied about what was going on, even though they knew the truth. And Dominion asserted that they hurt their business. And Fox was like, okay, fine, we did hurt your business. The thing about the settlement on Tuesday is that Fox doesn't need to issue an apology.
Right. Correct. They just acknowledged that they had said some things that maybe weren't totally accurate about Dominion. That was it. That's all they had to do.
Imagine if you would apologize for a fight, an argument, a disagreement with a loved one that way. Like if you guys had a huge, I acknowledge that you were upset with me and I look forward to moving on.
I look forward to paying you your money. Though, Erin, one good thing about the settlement, it is 10 times the current valuation of Dominion voting systems. So this is a lot for them. And they still have cases pending against OAN, Newsmax, and some of Trump's finest advisors.
Mm-hmm. So here's another thing that I was a little bit confused by yesterday. There was a lot of dunking on this. Like, yes, justice has been served or whatever, but Fox doesn't need to admit fault on air, which is what a lot of us were hoping for. They just get to pay up and shut up, basically.
Pay up and shut up. And this is not a huge sum of money for them.
No, it's not a huge, I mean, it is a non-small amount of money, but
Correct.
It's not like a catastrophic amount of money. It's not like the $1.4 billion Alex Jones was asked to pay out in a lawsuit against him. I think this is a really important lesson about what these lawsuits are. Like, Dominion was always just out for Dominion. You know, like what?
Yeah.
Rational,
this wasn't a greater good.
Right. What rational person, though? I mean, even if they are interested in the greater good, what rational person would drag themselves through years and years of legal battles for a negligible amount more money?
Right.
And really, like, what does an apology do to the people that were actually wronged? What we wanted was an apology that would hurt Fox News by proving they were hypocrites, by making them admit to their viewers that they have a deep contempt for them. But we're not going to get that. But because Dominion doesn't need that. Dominion doesn't need that to be made whole. The American people want that to be made whole.
Right.
But Dominion doesn't need that to be made whole.
The one thing that I hope for, and the one thing that the Dominion lawyers were talking about last night, was the sort of irreparable harm that was done to their employees who were targeted and harassed and all this. And I hope that of that $787.5 million, that some does trickle down to the people who were targeted and harassed.
I mean, I know that the lawyers are probably going to lob off a pretty hefty fee for the work that they did. But they did some good work, probably not, they probably don't deserve the money more than the Dominion people do, but that's just the way our legal system works. I think that a lot of people, I was watching cable news last night, which was silly of me. But it was so weird. There was this, like, on the show that I watched, there was this really long monologue about justice has been served. And it's like, what are you talking about? It hasn't been, because
the trial's over. That's what's happened.
The trial's over. And like, yeah, we had a long wind up, and I get that we were really excited to cover the circus of it and like learn more stuff. But we didn't get to. We didn't get to learn more things. We didn't get to see the full truth. Yeah, I mean, it's good and it's bad. It's not something to dunk on, but it's not something to lament, I don't think.
I think that's the best way to put it.
Let's move on to Meatball Ron.
Oh, Meatball. God.
I feel like if this were a morning show, there would be like the sound of a toilet flushing after
He's an
that.
angry meatball. Yeah.
Meatball. Meatball Ron. He does sound like a morning show host, and maybe he would be better suited to do that because he can't really govern. He can make a show of being a dick. But here's some Meatball Ron schadenfreude. This was published in Rolling Stone, and I know the reporter who wrote this piece, and he is very well sourced. And so I'm like, God, I bet as long as Ron DeSantis remains a viable, possible 2024 presidential candidate, I feel like this reporter at Rolling Stone is going to be a thorn in his side. So basically, a group chat of rich DeSantis donors has been shit-talking Ron DeSantis. Your group chat, your side group chat where you shit-talk something else happening in the main group chat.
Erin,
the rich do it too.
There is trouble in mega donor paradise.
Can you kind of lay out what's going on in mega donor paradise?
Well, Erin, it seems that that Ron DeSantis is starting to freak out his donors because they're like, maybe he should have returned to Fort Lauderdale after the massive flooding and now fuel crisis instead of taking his show on the road. Maybe he should stop banning books. Maybe his abortion position is just going a little too far even for these guys. Erin, they are concerned about all these things and the fact that while he's out there beating his chest on these great things he thinks he's done, he still won't take Trump on. Mm-hmm. And Trump is still 23 points ahead of him.
Yeah, it's interesting that you use the phrase, the show on the road, because I think what's really funny about the mega donors is they still don't get it. It's not that they want Ron DeSantis to actually do things to help homeowners in Florida. You know, it's not, they're not like, why isn't Ron DeSantis working on affordable housing? Why isn't Ron DeSantis working on climate sustainability? Why isn't he trying to make make Florida more shored up for inevitable climate change disasters? No, they want him to show up as though he cares instead of actually caring.
Just go back home, Ron. We don't care what you do, but people can't get gas and they're getting pissed. And like the last thing you can have is people in Florida mad at you. So
I kind of like that he took his show on the road, though, because it really reveals the fact that it's a show. He's not doing anything.
Erin, we have said this for almost 250 episodes, that why are Republicans trying stand-up comedy? This is what they think it is. They're all like, you know what? I want to go out and get some laughs. I want people to clap for me. There's literally no real meaningful motivation behind anything they do other than scoring, like, I don't know, good feedback on their new shtick.
Yeah, it is true. It's. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel that said they all just want to be stars, which I think is very true. It's and true. People have also speculated that Ron DeSantis is auditioning for Fox. He's doing all kinds of showy stuff that is not really what he was elected to do. He wasn't elected to be a talking head. He was elected to govern, and he's not governing. He's getting in fights with Mickey Mouse. He's banning abortion at 6 weeks, which, by the way, he signed the 6-week abortion ban in Florida in like the dead of night with no hullabaloo. Did you see the photo op that went with it?
It was anemic.
It was like he surrounded himself with like women. Like, hey, look, I don't hate women. Some of my best friends are women.
See, women like me.
Yeah.
They agree with me.
It was super weird. But I feel like here's the reason that the 6-week ban was extra insidious. Because Florida was, for a lot of people in the South who were seeking abortion care in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, Florida was sort of the place that they had to go. It was one of the last accessible places where abortion was legal for them or accessible for them. And with a 6-week ban in the books, all of these people are going to flood into other states with systems that are already way overtaxed. And it's going to influence and impact routine gynecological care. For people, I don't think people understand this. Like Florida banning this type of abortion care is going to impact people in all of the states where these patients, because they're not going to be like, oh, well, nevertheless, like you're pregnant, you don't want to be pregnant. You're not going to you're going to do everything you can, everything in your power. If that means traveling 1,000 miles, if that means going down to Mexico, if whatever that means, you're going to do it. And so I don't, this is a decision that impacts people far beyond the borders of Florida. It's people in the South. It's people in like haven states near the South. It's bad. I don't like it.
It's bad.
It's bad. But, I'm glad that Ron's donors are talking shit about him. Love to see it. I want them to keep it up, even though they are also probably pretty bad people. But yeah, let them fight.
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 Let me long reign the group chats.
Indeed. And by the time people hear this, we will have action one way or another, action or inaction on the Supreme Court and the abortion pill case.
Yep.
So basically, Alito put a hold on the ban of mifepristone, and the ban expires at midnight on April 19th. We are recording on April 19th. So either the Supreme Court will say, actually, we're going to keep this drug on the market, or they're going to say nothing, and then the ban will go into effect across the country, except for in the 17 states that have a competing lawsuit in Washington state. It's all very confusing.
But even in those states, doesn't the access roll back to 2016 standards?
I don't know. See,
Erin, we can't even sort out. And going back to 2016 standards would mean no mifepristone by mail, has to be administered by a doctor, things that are cumbersome and unnecessary and were done away with years ago.
Yeah, there's no reason that you need to do it in front of a doctor, really.
No.
I've taken it before, and you don't. It's sort of like better if you don't, because you just kind of want to be home just for the ensuing hours afterwards. And it's stupid. This is what happens when people who would fail high school biology try to make rules on medical practice. It is just absolute trash. So I guess, to be continued. We're going to get Wednesdayed pretty hard by this, and we're acknowledging it. I have no high hopes whatsoever for the Supreme Court. But we'll see. Maybe they'll give us an upside surprise because they're realizing that they're costing their party elections all across the country.
Or maybe they're just going to be overwhelmed by the fact that they don't want to hurt Big Pharma.
That's true. Oh, my God. What a Sophie's choice for John Roberts.
Sophie's choice.
Oh, God. My heart goes out to him today and the other, conservative gadflies on the court. Okay, let's take a quick break. I'm so excited for this next guest.
We're so lucky.
I'm so excited. We are so lucky. Stick around. We're talking to Gerri from Succession again. She's back and better than ever. And welcome back. Alyssa, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Alyssa, what are the rules of spoilers when it comes to Succession? Because I had a real big thing spoiled this season, but it was my fault because I hadn't watched it by Tuesday. How long?
Yeah, if you haven't watched it by Tuesday morning, shame on you. And also, if you have friends who really love you, you all start conversations with, are you caught up, before anybody says anything else?
Yeah, I got it spoiled by an Ari Melber Instagram post. And I was like,
it's a terrible way to be brought down.
I know. But you know what? It's fine.
Was this about episode 3?
Yes.
It's about all episodes.
It's about
all episodes.
Right.
And
but I mean, that's
Episode 4, I was talking to some girlfriends and somebody said something about Shiv. And I was like, I figured it out before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Now
And the voice everybody is hearing in the backdrop before we just kind of go into our conversation, because we're all pals around here. She's an acting legend, a Broadway veteran, and the legendary Gerri on Succession. J. Smith Cameron, welcome back to Hysteria.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
We're so happy you're here. So let's get started, because we were talking about spoilers. Before we get to anything else, we need to ask the most pressing socio-political question of the week. Did Logan underline or cross out Kendall's name?
Well, as you know, that's very subjective, right? It's like a, Rorschach test. Like, how do you see it? I think it looks crossed out to me. Because, look, if you wrote it, if it was your document you wrote, Why would you need to underline it? Like if it was someone else wrote it and you're like, no, or yes, I picked this one. But if you wrote it and you're like, well, I changed my mind, that's different. I think. That's one theory. And also I think maybe it could be, they just said it could be a few years old. And since the story began, which is only about, believe it or not, about a year's time. It's not they don't make too fine a point on it, but in season 1, we have a Thanksgiving episode, right? So it's November. And this is an election cycle year. So we're back to November. So it's about a year's time. We all look incredibly different.
Wow.
I know.
Kendall got into a lot of jiggery-pokery in one year.
Yeah, Kendall is a chaos machine.
Wait a minute. Did you say jiggery-pokery?
I did.
Is that an Alitoism?
I got it from Shane Smith working at Vice.
Oh, okay.
I love that. And that's very Succession-y. I mean, I wonder if the show was ongoing, which it's not, that would be a very good thing for Gerri to say.
I could have contributed. I
know. You could have been a contender.
So Gerri, not Gerri, Jay.
It's okay.
That's so funny. So Jay, we were talking in our news segment today about the Fox Dominion lawsuit. And I'm not sure if you've been following it or not, but it settled in a very dramatic way at the last minute, right before the trial was about to start. If Gerri were in the Fox legal team, what would she have advised them to do?
Well, it's funny because Michael Beschloss, is that Beschloss? Did I say right?
Yeah.
We follow each other on Twitter, and he said, this is what Gerri would have advised Logan to do. He didn't want to. What do you say, Jace McCameron? And I was like, it looks like Rupert has a Gerri, is what it sounds like. And it also very Logan Royish. Up to the last minute, someone was wanting to tough it out. And it's very Gerri, and now Gerri is getting a lot of flack for it because the idea is you spend the money, you don't go to prison. And he gets to keep, as I said in my tweet, I was like, and he gets to keep his fantasy news game going. You know what I mean? Like so, and then it sparked a whole conversation in the car this morning because in my husband's film, Margaret, the heroine is trying to right a moral wrong by suing the bus company about a woman gets killed in a bus accident, and she feels it was the bus driver's fault, and perhaps her own fault as well, that she distracted him. And it takes forever. It's a very tedious process. One of their conditions is that the bus driver get fired. He doesn't get fired. They win a bunch of money that goes to the dead woman's relatives, they never got along with her. She didn't get along with them. They get a bunch of money. They get several $100,000 from the bus company in the movie. And our heroine is completely unsatisfied, but it's this cold wave of water splashing her in the face like, you're an adult now. That's the horrible, in our culture now, the person who gets the money has won the war, and it's not satisfying, and there's no moral rectitude involved. I don't know. I veered off of Gerri's answer, right? But I think Gerri. I feel like Gerri. I wrote to him. I said to Michael, I was like, it seems like Rupert has a Gerri. Who's like, remember the episode where I go into his office, the feds are downstairs. And I'm like, you have to, I've been saying all season, I think we should cooperate. And we slowly fire this person. We give this this amount of money towards this. And, and it slowly goes away. And it costs a lot of money, but no one goes to prison. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the only time that I know of anyone really yelling at Logan. I think somebody said on Twitter that Kendall yelled at Logan in the first season about his, about how he treats Kendall's son.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I feel like it's a very Gerri settlement. I hate to say.
Jay, Succession is the culture when a new season starts airing. How do you deal with the all-consuming cultural obsession within your own life? Are you watching along? Are you in the comments? I mean, can you get a cup of coffee in peace?
Yes, I watch along. Sometimes I have to watch ahead if I have to do a podcast about an episode and they're going to ask me about this or that moment, because I don't know if I've said this to you guys before, but the way Succession was shot, you often have alternative lines, or there's improvs, and the whole way it's shot is the camera's moving around. You don't really know who's on camera. It's not like a traditional TV show is like, we're shooting this way, and then we'll do different sizes, and then we turn the camera and we change the lighting and we shoot this way. And that's sort of traditional thing. And with Succession, they just have 2 or 3 cameras going around all the time catching things. You say something funny, scripted or not, if they catch it, the camera waves back like, who said that? Oh, he said that. Like that. It's like this interesting. So it's very hard to predict exactly what you're going to see, even if you were there on the set doing it. And I've, especially with this show, any show is a bit like that, because editing is a huge part of post-production, where they pick and choose between takes and they put it together in such a way that that's the final bit of the storytelling. And Jesse and the producers weigh in on the edit. And that's part of, so I don't know, like, I know I said a certain line or someone said a certain line to me. I don't know if it's going to turn out cut or in the background or missed or highlighted, or you hear it clearly, but the focus is on Roman, or, I really don't know. And that's what's so fascinating about the show. And I love to watch along because it's so suspenseful. It's suspenseful in an extra way for me, because I'm wondering, between a multitude of choices, how they chose each micro section. That answers that part of it. What else did you say? You said, can I get a cup of coffee?
When you're out and about, can you get a free minute, or is everyone trying to ask you questions?
I do get recognized a fair amount. Yesterday, Kenny, my husband, and I went to dinner, had an early dinner with Kieran. So we walked in our neighborhood, and someone
people
almost
must have
fainted.
Lost their shit.
So one girl seemed faint. She's like, please, can I take a picture? And Kieran was like, we're running late, sorry. And he was just so smooth. I'm usually like, I haven't brushed my hair. I just had to walk the dog. Please don't take, because the problem with pictures is they could end up on the internet for, in perpetuity. And, you just can't, you don't have any quality control over that. So it's terrible, because if I feel like I'm going to take the dog on a long walk, I feel like I have to run my comb through my hair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being that way anyway, but like early in the morning when you want to walk your dog. I mean, I'm someone who puts sneakers on with my pajamas and puts a hat on and sneaks out there. And I feel like I can't really do that as much. But I mean, it's not like super famous people, but I do feel it. Yeah.
I would have lost my marbles if I saw you two out in real life. I would have had a moment where I almost blacked out and was like, am I in Succession? Is that what is happening? So Jay, the last time you were on, we talked about Shakespeare. I mean, you're a stage actor before you were acting in film and TV. And the episode that took place at Connor's wedding felt like one of the most Shakespearean episodes of TV and of Succession that I've ever seen. When you were shooting it, did it kind of feel like you were performing in a play? And how did you prepare for the scene where Roman, spoiler alert, betrays Gerri on his father's orders?
How did I prepare for that moment? Well, let's go back to for the first part of the question was, did it feel like a play? Because it has a sort of Shakespearean, well, first of all, it has a sort of Shakespearean scale to it, doesn't it? Because it's a big episode, and it picks on very big themes. And in Shakespeare, often there's a king or a monarch of some kind, or duke. There's, and that's sort of true of Succession. There's a strong, rich man who's leading everything. So it follows certain things that are sort of Shakespearean. So yes, but they furthermore felt like that because they started doing this thing in season 4 where they would just run from scene to scene without cutting. So it meant, so we did the whole part. They did it on the plane as well. We did all this covered. We did all the scenes in turn. Like, you know, when they find out and they're on the phone and they're talking they're trying to talk to him on the plane. They don't know if he can hear them or not. And then they have to go tell Connor. And then there's the scene where they all come into the room to discuss, and they ask me in there. And then I'm alone with Roman briefly. Well, so we did all those scenes distinctly as written, as normal. And then we ran about almost a half hour's worth of material, or 20 minutes worth of material straight. So there was like handing off of cameras quietly, and people ducking out of the, like people hiding a camera behind the sofa. So they would just slip in, like crouch down and slip in behind someone coming through the door. So it was like running a 20-minute or, you know, play, like a short play. Like we did a string of scenes together in real time, flowing, which was, I don't know of any other show that's done that quite. And I heard on one of those shows, right, you know how they have right after the episode, they have a little discussion about it. I heard Mark Mylod say, I think we used quite a bit of that take, because you can imagine the performances, particularly for the sibling characters, you know, to be able to keep the real time of finding that out and processing those feelings, and then dealing with Roman to deal with someone like Gerri, and he tries to get sympathy from Gerri, and Jerry's having her own whatever it is. She's in shock too, and she's dealing with the other shock. Like Kieran and I discussed it, and Jesse, that, you know, it starts off with this horrible scene between Roman and Gerri, and it seems like that's going to be the horrible scene for him of the day. Mm-hmm. Not just that he had to fire someone, but that he had to fire her. And it's awful for both of us. And it hasn't been the wedding yet. We're stuck there and we're on a boat. And that seems like how much worse could it possibly get? And then it gets worse for him. Mm-hmm. So to run it straight, you get that emotional pile-on for him. Like he goes, you know, and so it was very rich to be able to just keep it going straight, you know.
It felt like Logan had, in a way, ordered Roman to kill his mother. I mean, because Gerri is sort of like a maternal figure to him in this really fucked up way. It's like the final interaction between Roman and Logan was Logan being like, kill your mom, and Roman doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like, I remember watching it and feeling so awful. And I thought that scene between the two of you was so layered and well acted. Gerri's reaction was like perfect. Logan's discomfort was perfect. It was like such a powerful moment in the show. And you're right that it gets kind of overshadowed by the other big thing that happens in that episode. But I feel like the second big thing kind of puts an exclamation point on the first big thing.
And remember, in between that, Roman feels shitty about what he did and calls and leaves a message for Logan, where he says, that was a shitty thing to ask me to do. I guess you're a cunt. You know? Sorry, but this is all succession speak. It's not how I speak.
It's how we speak, so it's fine.
Of course, we're how I speak. Okay, we're all good. So, and then, you know, so then he's, in Roman's mind, he's like, you know, the siblings don't know that he asked him to do this and come in with him again. And they also don't, you know, like the siblings don't know that yet. And he doesn't know whether Logan heard that message. Was he responding to that message when he had an embolism? Like, what happened? What happened? You know? So on top of it, it was like, kill your mother. I killed my mother. Now I'm killed my father. They all feel like they killed him by making him go to Sweden to ask for more money. So it's very Titus Andronicus or something, like not just Shakespeare, but Shakespeare, a certain vein of Shakespeare that's particularly sadistic and gory, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
Jay, you have described yourself growing up as a, quote, shy kid who wore glasses, played violin, and didn't have a best friend. What does middle school Jay think about major publications like the New York Times talking about how you're a 60-something sex symbol? How have you taken being a sex symbol out for a spin?
I don't. I'm not a sex symbol. I don't feel like that's. I feel
like
the world begs to disagree.
The world begs to differ. Also, like entire lesbian group chats, I think, would completely disagree with you.
Well, I mean, I feel like the Gerri character has this sort of like surprise, invisible glamour to her. Because, I mean, you could unpack it. It'd take a long time, but I feel like, you know, she suffers no fool. She's very steely and no nonsense. And she's, you know, the hardest working, smartest person in the room always. And there is something, I mean, that's what maybe why Roman is, yes, he has a mother thing, but also I think he's so smitten with that because he's such a, I mean, don't tell Karen I said this, but Roman is such a flibberty gibbet in a way, or he seems that way.
Not the F word, flibberty gibbet. Oh, it's the first time that's been used on this show.
in the beginning, at least, I feel like he's really deepened as a character as it goes along. You know, that's what's so sad from Gerri's point of view is I think she really feels that had he just not taken those pictures with his phone and not persisted in this kind of ridiculous, perverse flirtation, that there was a way they could have a relationship and an alliance where they'd be quite close and they would make excellent, like with her behind him, he could have run the industry. And he just never sort of hears it. He's like sort of like giddy, either because he has a crush or whatever. It's so funny. But anyway, the sex symbol thing is like, I don't know. It just feels like a fun joke, but I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's fun to.
Good.
First of all,
you should.
I think it's great if 60 something. Thank you for that. You know, people have sexual identities. That's because they do. I mean, there are plenty of sexy people of any age, and I think it's, you know, too little, too late it's not that I'm a sex symbol, it's that I'm in my 60s and a sex symbol. That's why it's worth talking about. Like, and so it's kind of like, you know, it's not the dance the dog is doing, it's that it's done by a dog, you know, that argument. Like it's not the, you know, so I feel like I don't take it very seriously. So, but I'm enjoying it because my stylist, Kat Pope, has put me in these like, this today is Carolina Herrera, but she has put me in these beautiful, some of the award show things I've worn have been like va-va-voom kind of like glamour puss outfits. And I would never have selected them. Or had someone brought them to me, like a costume designer, I would be like, oh, I don't think that's right for me, you know. But she's just persisted and she has this light breezy way about her. Like, of course that looks good. Of course you can do that. You know what I mean? Like, even if I didn't have the perfect waistline for it or anything, she's like, you look great. Like she's just loose and free and she's imaginative and she's not bound by ageist ideas. And so I have to give her that shout out because, and the same with my, Liz Olivier, who does my hair and makeup. They're like, of course you're a sex pot. You know, they're just very.
I love that. You know, I was talking last night with my husband, who is also a Succession fan, obviously, and we agreed that a Gerri spinoff would 100%. Be 100%.
Yes, please.
It would be like event TV for us if they spun off. Even if it was like Gerri right before the Succession timeline started. Like, it would just be...
the Gerri prequel.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Better Call Gerri, kind of. Well, J. Smith Cameron, thank you so much for joining us. This was so fun.
My pleasure.
Come back again.
Always. And I told you, one day I want to interview you guys.
We're coming up on episode 250.
Yes.
All right. That's right. It's going to be on episode 250. Got it. Gives me some time to prepare my questions. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.